How's everybody doing today? I'm Jim Fletcher, and I'm here to talk to you just a little bit on the internet and online learning. But before we get started, let's talk about setting up the Blackboard. Here are the instructions. It's very simple. Hopefully you all got in here earlier and was able to set it up with no problems. Just give me a thumbs up if everybody got everything set up okay. All right. Quality check. So if you can hear me, if you can see my slide and you see the little record button, do another hands up. Okay, cool. So for this materials, we're going to need our Thinking Collaboratively book by Garrison and a computer. For you in the virtual world, let's make sure you have your book with you just in case. Let's remove all of our distractions. Lock your doors, close your doors, turn off your cell phones. Tell everybody this should take about 20 minutes. We should be fine. So let's talk about the learning objectives. This is what you're going to learn. You're going to be able to describe how the online learning works. You're going to be able to list characters of online learning, and we're going to discuss two types of online learning. So imagine, if you would, that you could be able to sit at a computer and take a Russian history class from one of the top Russian professors in Russia, from one of the universities. Would that not be to actually learn it from somebody who's there living it and not having to think of what they actually thought? Or what about a language student being able to practice Italy or Italian from somebody in Italy and from a university there? That would be just amazing if we could do that. Well, we can. So the first question, have you ever taken an online class before? Just take your pen. It's up in the upper right-hand or left-hand corner, and circle one of those answers. So good. Everybody's done an online class. Cool. So let's talk about how does an online learning work. So online learning is this idea that by using the internet, we can deliver courses to people around the world, and it eliminates the time and the distance restrictions that students have. So I've taken online courses from as far away as 2.5, 3 hours, and it was great because it was a top tier university for the degree that I was getting, but it wouldn't have been, for me to commute, it would have just been too much. Oftentimes, the network allows students to work from anywhere in the world they want, night or day, regardless of when it is, and they complete assignment, and then they upload it to the learning software. So in the chat box, when you took the online course, how was the communication with the instructor? Was it good? Was it fair? Was it absent? Esteban, you said good for the most part. Jump on here and say why it was for the most part.
Because, instructors, like I had some instructors where the course they were teaching, really, they were just teaching by the book. They really had no knowledge of what they were teaching. So when I asked a question, immediately I would not really get an answer, but more of a, let me look into it and I'll get back to you kind of deal. So it's like, yeah, that's not going to work.
I understand that. Rebecca, you said not very good. What was yours?
My experience was that essentially the course instructor had just taken all of the material that they would have taught in class, like their lecture notes, and just posted them online. And that was considered the online course of just reading basically through their notes. And if you had any questions or anything like that, it had to go through email. So there wasn't a whole lot of interaction, and it was kind of disappointing.
So I've had classes where they've had good interaction and poor interaction. I had one professor that no matter how often you emailed him, you never got a response. So it was really, you had to understand the syllabus in order to do the class. And that was one of the things that I saw from Garrison, is that the communication is a big problem in online courses. And he likens it to the old-fashioned, I'm forgetting the word, correspondence courses, where they just send you the packet, you fill it out and do it. And I'm dating myself because I can remember doing correspondence courses. So online learning is characterized by it's the ability for students and an instructor to put something online, students to do it, irregardless of where they're at in the world. Accessibility is for the students is great because like I'm a full-time fireman. I can sit at the firehouse for 8 hours and do nothing but schoolwork and get most of my homework done. Where, you know, some people have to work at night or weekends because of working full-time or whatever. So, and that's a good characteristic. The assignments, most professors are very good about opening the whole course up so that you can work at your own pace, and then you turn them in and get them reviewed. Some only do it week by week so that you kind of stay together. So activity, go to the square button on the right or up on top left, and just put a square around which one, if you had a reason to pick an online class, which one would you pick? What was the reason? Would it be subject matter experts or national curriculum? Okay, so I have to ask, why the subject matter experts? Just somebody jump in. Ryan, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you spend any money and you're going to spend all that time to go ahead and learn something new or something you're interested in. I don't see why you wouldn't want to be with the person that's identified as an expert in that subject.
Would anybody pick both of them? Look for the subject matter expert and the national curriculum together. Rebecca, why?
I think I would choose that because I would want not just a subject matter expert, but also a curriculum that's been vetted by other professionals in the field, or something that's kind of stood up when people have assessed it for actual, like, meaningful outcomes, rather than just someone can be a subject matter expert, but they could be a poor instructor or not be able to create a curriculum. So having that standardized curriculum that people have agreed is the best, I think, would be like the best of both worlds, to have both those things together.
Yeah. So we have a gentleman here that teaches fire behavior where I live. And he was a chemist for 40 years with Procter & Gamble, so he knows his chemistry. But it is like listening to a rock talk, very monotone. So you're right, he is a subject expert. He teaches at a national level, but he is just boring to listen to. So I agree with you 100%. Garrison was really, I didn't see anything in the book where he talked about these two subject matter experts or a national curriculum. and he was pretty good that there's not a lot of research on online courses at all. So the last type I want to talk about is the types of learning. So asynchronous is pretty much where the lectures are pre-recorded. You listen to them, you do your assignment, you turn it in. Very straightforward. The only problem is if you need an answer or something, then like we've all probably done in the past, you have to email, and then you have to sit there and wait for the instructor to email you back in order to get the answer before you can continue with the assignment or turn it in. Synchronous, on the other hand, is like we're doing right now, where we're sitting in this lecture, we're talking and communicating, and we're going through class. You have a question, we can answer it right now and get it done. Garrison, in our book, said that most of the online courses that started out were asynchronous, but now they're starting to more change over to the synchronous, where they support the text and the video and everything. So an activity, just take the pen and put a check on which one that you would prefer to do. Who put the asynchronous, or was that Rebecca?
I like the opportunity to kind of reflect on what other people have written, so I like asynchronous, and I think it's easier for people as far as scheduling purposes.
Oh, okay. That's one thing I never thought of. Really didn't. I know this course is kind of hard being sit in, every Tuesday for 2 hours, especially, when you have to work or, something's going on. So I never really thought of it that way, but I agree with you. Ryan?
Experience with certain courses that I've had to take since becoming a teacher just to get highly qualified certification. A lot of the stuff I've done is asynchronous, and I find when a class is entirely asynchronous with no live component to it, the teachers that run them typically don't put a lot of effort in. They're typically not available for questions. There's very little structure to it. People kind of just go through the motions when going through it. I feel like the live component, even if it's just like meeting for like an hour a week, just adds that little element that makes everybody a bit more responsible.
TJ? TJ, if you're talking, we're not hearing anything. Still not.
Oh, apparently I bumped the mute
There it
button
is.
on my mic. Okay. So I'm somewhere in the middle. Honestly, I prefer synchronous because you get that interaction. However, like Rebecca just mentioned, and you just mentioned, not everybody can be everywhere at the same time. So even if it is synchronous at first, as long as they're doing a recording and not like expecting you to be at this time, at this place every week, or if you don't, you fail type of a thing, is when it kind of gets a little dicey.
Okay. So we all, and everybody has their own preference, and I actually don't have a preference because we do courses that are both synchronous and asynchronous in the fire service. The asynchronous, ours are timed, so you actually have to spend, if it's a 3-hour course, you actually have to spend 3 hours in there. You can't just blow through the test and be done with it in 5 minutes. You actually have to spend the time in there. But I see your point. A lot of us, for the asynchronous, we don't take our time. And I'll be the first one to admit, I sit there and let the video run and play on the computer and not even listen to it. So it's good. I like the your choice. Like the information that you gave, it is very good. So in the fire service, there are online programs. This just happens to be my alma mater where I graduated from with mine. They have both face-to-face traditional, they both have online, but they also offer something unique where the online students can actually come to campus for different labs. Like I took an arson class that we did a live burn on campus so that we could go through and find the cause and determination of cause and origin, of how it started. So they do offer those, I guess you would call blended classes as well. Practical application, like I said, even some of the labs are online. The chemistry lab, they send you all your stuff. You have to videotape, take pictures of your labs, and then post them online with the instructor. So it was really good. And the instructor for the chemistry was actually really good because she was right on top of it. If you had a question, not only did she give you her email, but if you didn't hear from her within 12 to 24 hours, she wanted you to call her and she would answer it right away. So using thumbs up, thumbs down, and everybody's taken an online class. So has this, would you consider an online degree if you could go to one of the top universities in the field that you want to study? All right. And that's the way I was, TJ. My undergraduate was 100% online as well. And it was the reason I chose Eastern Kentucky was not only for the national curriculum, but the instructors. My fire prevention or my fire behaviors instructor actually taught the class from Saudi Arabia where he was investigating a oil refinery fire. And that's, those guys are top in the field. The arson class was taught by the investigator who investigated the Murray federal building bombing, if you guys are old enough to remember that. So, that's why I chose Eastern. So resolution, there are a lot of benefits to online, and especially if you're holding a full-time job and you still want to go to college. The important thing, and I tell this to all the guys that ask me, why you chose the field or the study or the university you did, you have to evaluate online whether you want traditional face-to-face classes or if you want to do it online. So I have two final questions. Number one, using the poll, and let me set up the poll. Choosing one or two, has this changed your mind in taking online classes? Which we've all done the online classes, so I would assume it would. Somebody. No? So we're split. That's interesting. So the ones who said no, why? TJ.
I think the biggest thing, especially for me, everything I have done since I've gotten out of high school has been online. So there really isn't much room to change my mind per se, because my entire higher education has been online based outside of like a semester. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Okay. Esteban?
I like for me, I feel like in order for me to keep moving forward, I have to make sure that whatever it is that I'm going to be, get an education in, fits within my schedule. I mean, I work and then I teach and everything in between, kids, everything. So in a sense, it's like I'm at the point to where I really have no choice. So online classes are like the best thing that fit. Whether or not they are effective with my learning, I mean, I think that's pretty much up to me. It's as far as how I'm willing to absorb all this information and apply it.
Okay. Well, I thank you guys. Class is over. Enjoyed the talk, and thanks again.